Hello, everyone. This is Darlene Andres Moreno Quiseno from Group 10, and today we are going to have an overview about historical of translation. Well, translation goes beyond language. It reflects culture, identity, and ideology. George Menin explored linguistic challenges while Sherry Simon and Louis Van Flotto focused on gender in translation. Menin saw translation as a bridge between languages, while Simon and Flotto highlighted how feminist translation gives voice to marginalized groups. Well, throughout this presentation, we would like to explore, how their ideas shape, translation today. Number one, we're going to have like an approach to the chapter 6. And the title of this chapter is George Benin, Theoretical Explanation of Translation. And well, you might be wondering who was George Benin. Well, he was a French linguist, 1910 to 1993, recognized as a key figure in translation studies. He's been considered, the founder of modern French translation theory. Well, his main contributions are the following. Number one, Les Belles Infidèles in 1955 through 1994, where he criticized the idea that translation was impossible. And another book or another work from him was the problems of translation in 1963. And basically, on this work, he developed a theoretical framework for translation. And the main focus here, throughout these works was the relationship between linguistics and translation. Also, understanding translation as a bridge between languages and cultures. Another topic that we can see throughout, his work was the role of linguistic in translation. For instance, Munin examined the linguistic obstacles in translation, particularly focusing on vocabulary. He described translation as a form of bilingualism, and where the translator serves as a bridge between two languages. The main idea here was that the translator must follow linguistic norms and avoid grammatical and lexical errors. He had like a debate with Edmund Carey, who was another, linguistic by that time. Carey stated that literally translation is purely literally process, while Munin established that linguistics is essential for accurate translation. Munin argued that translation should be studied as a branch of linguistics, not just literature. Another topic we see here is the meaning and worldview. Munin explored how meaning varies across languages, questioning existing linguistic theories. He criticized Harris and Hemsleft for ignoring the role of semantics in translation. Influence of Humboldt and the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Every language presents a unique worldview. If this were absolute, translation would be impossible. Monin perspective. Despite linguistic differences, all humans share common experiences, allowing for translation. A translator must navigate semantic fields to find equivalent meanings. Another topic that we see here is the ethnography, and well, we have like a short conclusion here for this topic. So, Munin emphasized that translation is not only about language, but also about culture. The role of ethnography in translation. It helps to understand the cultural context of words and expressions. Translators should study how different societies express meaning. So, as a conclusion here, translation is possible because it combines both linguistic and cultural understanding. And a successful translator should also be an ethnographer, studying how language functions within a society. All right, chapter 17. It refers to gender studies in translation from Sherry Simon and Louis Bonflot. Gender studies plays a crucial role in translation, shaping perspectives and cultural identity. Key figures in this field, we have Sherry Simon, who focuses on feminist poetics in translation. And we also have Louise von Flotto, which, I mean, she explores translation as a form of cultural transfer. And we have a main question here. How does gender influence translation and what strategies can be used to highlight gender in text? Well, we're going to answer that question as follows, and from two different perspectives. So, from Cherry Simon, she says feminist translation and cultural identity is a form of literary activism that engage with literature. Gender and identity shape contemporary culture and influence translation. Translators' emotional connection to text affects their work. She critiques feminists as follows. Women and translators have been historically marginalized. Feminist translation challenges the invisibility of women in literature. Strategies, use of prefaces, footnotes, and creative interventions to highlight gender perspectives. Both feminist and postcolonial approaches address power imbalances and cultural invisibility. Lois von Flotto's perspective. According to her, gender is a cultural construct that affects translation. Translation is not just linguistic, it is a cultural transfer. The development of gender in translation studies in Europe and North America. Impact of feminist movement on translation. Women's perspectives influence text selection and translator roles. Feminist, for instance, translation has recovered lost works by women writers. Comparison to Simon. I mean, so if we compare to what Simon stated in the previous slide, we can see here that both Simon and Flotos emphasize gender in translation as a part of cultural studies. However, some scholars argue that their views are too radical. Well, as a conclusion, we highlight some challenges in feminist translation. For instance, a debate over whether translation studies should be part of cultural studies, and Flotto distinguishes between reformist and radical approaches, but does not explore another point of view. And a final reflection, feminist translation fits within descriptive translation studies. It can be seen as a branch of the sociology of translation analyzing power, identity, and cultural shift in translation. Gender and cultural context matter in translation, shaping how texts are interpreted and understood. Thank you so much. This is Darlene. You all have a wonderful rest of the day.